Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. In this video, I got a story for you from the subreddit Am I the A-hole with a lot of context and an update, and then a story from Malicious Compliance. So if you want to go ahead and get started with the stories, you can use the timestamps below the video. Now, let's get started with the first story. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Throwaway Wood Money. Am I the a-hole for kicking my son out after he cut down my trees? Hi, I'm the father of an 18-year-old male who started choosing friends over his future when he was a sophomore. It took him nearly going to jail during senior year for him to snap out of it. He went from being a straight-A student to barely passing. He only started preparing for his SAT a week beforehand, which is evident in the score he got. He applied to some colleges, none of which were his dream ones, and managed to get into a few. He ended up coming to us and choosing one of the worst colleges on his list and saying his friends were going there. That set me off because he should not make decisions based on his friends. My wife and I told him that if he took a year off and continued to get his life back together, regardless of his new SAT score at the end of the year, we would pay for his college. But we wouldn't pay for him to hang out with his friends. He wasn't happy about taking a year off, even though we convinced him a year is nothing in the grand scheme of things, but he didn't mention it for a while. My wife and I went on a 2-week-long trip, and while we were away, nearly 10 trees in our backyard were cut down. They were some sort of sandalwood trees planted only God knows how long ago. We had left our daughter behind with our son, but they stayed a few nights with their uncle, so we instantly thought some random person cut them down to sell them. Our daughter secretly said she has an idea of what happened, but didn't elaborate. A quick security check shows our son hired a company to, badly and hastily, cut the trees, and he cut them into logs and planks with my equipment, then sold it to strangers. We ended up arguing, him saying he needs money for college. I kicked him out and he went to stay with another family member. My wife is upset and says I'm awful. I appreciate my son trying, but this was not the right way. Am I the a-hole? OP, in my opinion, no, you are not the a-hole. You're basically teaching your son that his actions have consequences. From what you tell us, it's been a few years since his attitude changed and he's been making some bad decisions lately. This one being going behind your back, cutting down your trees and then selling them for money for college. I would argue that by the time that you're 18, you can definitely differentiate between wrong and right. So on that point, I'd say again, no OP, you are not the a-hole. So what do you guys think? What is your judgment in this situation? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they had to say. Saluki Queen says, not the a-hole. Exactly what did he think was going to happen? You wouldn't notice the missing trees? Or that you wouldn't care that he hurt your property for a few bucks? They weren't his trees to sell and he didn't even ask. There does need to be consequences for that. This ride has 2 seats says, your 18-year-old son is selling random crap around the house for money? He arranged to have trees removed and made them into wood and sold them? This is behavior you see in someone with a drug addiction. Codename Buckwin says, not the a-hole. To be honest, my dad would have pressed charges. Your kid literally stole from you. And effed up your yard and lowered your property value in the process. Well, the community definitely thinks that OP is not the a-hole and what he did was okay. Now, like I do sometimes, I went looking in the comment section to see if there was more context to this story. And OP has given us a lot of context, with some hints regarding the twist update that help make more sense of it. So let's move on with the context and then the update. I had asked my son repeatedly if there's a reason for his change in behavior at the beginning of his senior year, and it was always the same answer. I'm just older now. My daughter has also told me that nothing happened, other than his friends going south and him following. After this run-in with the law, I had asked him if he wanted to do some counseling with our pastor. We aren't religious, but my son likes the guy, and he said he wasn't interested. Dealing with the police would be the only traumatic thing I'm aware of. It was a bit more than just underage drinking. My reaction to it probably didn't help either. I'm fully aware that my son drinks every time he goes to a party, not many because of COVID, and I'm fine with it as long as he doesn't return home blackout drunk and he doesn't drive. I was drinking at his age and he knows, so I don't want to be the type of parent advising against something they did, especially if he's doing it responsibly. Drugs, on the other hand, I'm pretty sure he doesn't do. He used to be a competitive swimmer for the longest time, but quit when his behavior started to change. He gave no reason, but my daughter thinks it's related to drug tests some competitions had them do. He never failed one, but that scared me a lot. I randomly asked him once if he would do a drug test if I gave him one, and his deadpan answer of, "I don't mind," made me feel like a crappy person. His behavior is never erratic or like someone on drugs. My daughter, who I should mention snitches on him regarding things I wouldn't know like school and friends, etc., because she genuinely wants the brother she used to have to come back, says his friend group doesn't do drugs and barely drink. I don't want to be any more of an overbearing parent than I currently am, so I don't think I will ever make him do something like that to prove his words. When his grades started dropping, I didn't immediately associate it with his new behavior. I'm not crazy about grades because, in my opinion, it's not worth the stress and mental issues that come along with it. So I just took it as burnout from studying hard for 3 years straight. I encouraged him to find a stress reliever, originally swimming, and he joined a youth club at our church. Again, we're not religious, but he likes the people. I thought that was a good sign, but then he quit and started, in my opinion, purposely only getting passing grades. His dream college was a nice state one, not our state, but he didn't even apply because he knew he wouldn't get in. It made me emotional to not even see him try, so I tried to support him with other choices, but he wasn't interested in my help. I honestly think he's trying too hard to fit in with his friends. He's fine at home, but once he steps out, he's doing something completely out of character. He's currently only speaking to the relatives he's staying with. Me, through phone calls, and he texts his sister. He hasn't said anything to his mother yet, since he isn't fond of her. This has been going on for a while now, so I'm not exactly sure if it was sudden or had always been like that. I do know that I started to notice it when he started high school, but I chalked it up to him just maturing and not wanting to go along with childish banter. It was until he started to actively say he preferred me over her that I registered that it was weird. I would always scold him over it and ask my wife how she felt. But she would always say it doesn't matter and she never acted indifferently towards him. She coddled him even if he was against it. Borderline helicopter parent, but not yet there. My wife is a lot more chill with my daughter. My daughter doesn't know why he doesn't like my wife. I thought it was always just him being a teen, but I'm not going to make it a topic of discussion and let him know that he shouldn't care about how I feel about whatever he says about his mother. He should just be honest if there's a legitimate problem. My son and I have talked a lot and he has expressed some of his feelings to me. I'm waiting for him to return before popping the idea of therapy, just so he doesn't think I don't like talking to him. I'm not sure why my wife is defending him. She has always coddled him, which was fine when he wasn't effing cutting down trees. She thinks we should pick him up from my brother's house right now. I think we should let him decide when he wants to face us. She thinks we should just pay for his college. I think we should continue with the gap year idea. She thinks if he lives alone, he will mature. I don't think he is emotionally ready for that. She doesn't even think we should go along with the town's ideas for new trees. They offered to foot the bill for some oaks to be put in my backyard, lining the back wall so it looks similar to before. I'm not sure how to compromise with her. Update to the town council's request. They called me early this morning and we spoke for nearly 30 minutes about the tree situation. This time I apologized for inconveniencing them. I brought up paying the entire bill instead of half like I originally thought, but apparently they have grants and stuff that cover a portion. I'll be paying around 70% of the bill. And when I say I mean my son will be paying 70% of the bill, just through my name. He will use the money he got from the wood as well as any savings if he needs to. any money left over is going to be donated by him in person to the Conservation Committee, and he'll donate his time as well towards planting trees. My wife and I agree on this, the first agreement throughout this whole situation, but we haven't told my son yet. We've decided that will be his punishment for the act of cutting down trees for greed. Punishment for cutting down my trees for college and selling it behind my back will come at a later date when we figured out why he did it. And that's all of the important context that I got from the comment section. So before we move on with the twist update, I'd like to ask you, what do you guys think is happening in this situation? What's going on behind the scenes? What is the twist? Let me know in the comment section if you have a good guess. And if you don't want to and just want to get to the update, then stick around, because that's coming up right now. It's been a while since the last post, and a lot of things have happened. Thanks a lot for everyone's input. It really helped give insight on my son's and I's behavior and helped when making decisions moving forward. An important thing to start with is we got mature oaks planted. There were 6 of them put in and they look amazing already. They cost a fortune, a crazy fortune. The money my son got from the sandalwood covered around half the price and I coughed up the remaining. Despite paying for them, they belong to the Conservation Committee, who is, understandably, upset about the previous trees being cut down. The oaks can't be cut down and they will be coming annually to check on how the trees are doing. Now, on to my son. In my previous post, I mentioned that his punishment for cutting down trees purely for money was to use said money for the new trees and formally apologize to the Conservation Committee as well as donate his time to them for a year. The money has been spent and he apologized. The apology was quite embarrassing. The Conservation Committee isn't a joke. They treated him harshly. Haha. For the past 2 weeks, he has been working alongside them, planting trees and bushes, landscaping the park, artificial habitats, and more. Surprisingly, the committee started liking my son and offered him an official job starting September, which he is taking. After realizing the reason for my son's misbehavior was mental issues, his punishment for disrespecting my property was changed to agreeing to everything I do regarding him getting help. After seeing a therapist, I was told my son has been silently suffering from a form of trauma for around 8 years. I only found out after family counseling that the cause of his trauma was from seeing my wife cheat on me and then being manipulated by her for years after. Needless to say, my wife does not live with me anymore. Getting separated and divorced is not as simple as signing papers, so the process probably won't start until life has settled down. I feel so stupid for not seeing it earlier. I don't even care about the cheating, but how did I not realize her babying my son was just a front? According to my son, she knew my son was aware of her affair and spent years manipulating him into believing he would ruin everyone's life if he spoke about it, as well as blaming the whole situation on him. On the surface, though, she treated him like a spoiled child, buying him things constantly, preventing him from taking responsibility for his actions, etc. She was the first one to say I shouldn't have kicked my son out over the trees. Anyway, my son is doing slightly better and has picked up swimming again. He's agreed to a gap year and will be retaking his SAT. He also dropped his friends and took a drug test that showed nothing weird. It's worth mentioning that these things didn't occur at individual stages, they all overlapped. My son was already volunteering and starting therapy when the trees had started to be put in. It's too early to be happy, but I am. Everyone has been more open since my wife left. My son has made it his goal to get into his dream college for architecture, while my daughter wants to go to a music festival. Haha, I don't think there's anything left to add. For people wondering, my son made nearly $35,000 from the wood. Thanks again, and I hope you have a nice day. So the son was a victim of his cheating mother this whole time. That poor kid. She really messed him up too. I mean, he saw her cheat. And then she would put on this pressure on him that if he said anything, he would ruin everyone's lives. And to add to the hypocrisy, while treating him badly in secret, she would be super nice and cuddling in front of everybody else. Yikes. OP, all that is left for me to say is that I hope you, your son, and your daughter can quickly get to a point where you're all okay. Take care, OP. And now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Taco Jesus Jr. Hold me back 1 year in high school over a single gym credit? How about I go to college a year early instead? I hated gym class, not because of the physical activity. I was in hockey and football, but the fact there wasn't enough time to shower before the bell. So you stink to high heaven for the rest of the day. So I would walk the track with all the girls. Pissed off my coaches, something awful. So they flunk me in my junior year and won't let me double up my senior year, so I would have to stay back. I had already picked out my college and was accepted, tech school. Just had to finish my senior year. So I figured I could work out something with the guidance counselor and the coach. Nope, neither would budge. Okay, I walk away thinking I'm screwed and have to basically take one class my second senior year. Then it dawns on me, can I just start going to college now? Are there other alternatives? So I call my college admissions and college guidance counselor, explain my situation and what other options are available. Since this is a non-traditional college, no SATs, you can start without a diploma. Tech college would let me start classes as long as I got my GED prior to graduation. The state I'm from, they don't distinguish between the two, so it won't be an issue later on. So I called another meeting hoping the high school admin would change their minds. No joy. They stuck to their guns. Thinking they had me cornered, I stood up and said, well, I'm just going to have to drop out then. I can't see missing a year of college just to do gym class. The coach thinks he's all cute and says, you can't go to college without a diploma. I relay what the tech school admin and guidance told me of their policy on this. Faces dropped. I said into the guidance counselor that a dropout looks bad on her and the school, small school, when the state audits. She starts backpedaling and I wasn't hearing any of it. Later on that night, the principal and vice principal called to talk. I wasn't interested. I was all excited about starting classes in the fall. Well done, OP. Hopefully they learned a lesson. Don't be a jerk and also give people more time to shower. I mean, come on. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.